Hello, everyone. And welcome to the Mentor Talk, the unique destination for insightful conversations with experienced professionals. I'm your host, Suzette, the CEO of Sales Pro for You. More about me later during this show. And in this podcast, we delve deep into the minds of accomplished mentors who share their expertise and insights with us. Each interview is a treasure trove of practical advice, personal anecdotes, and your doorway to sustainable business success. So whether you are a startup or SME looking for professional support in sales, marketing, or business and development, or if you are an experienced professional, this podcast show is your go-to resource. So without further ado, let's start into this today's enlightening conversation with Helen Honisett, right? So this my pronunciation was correct, right? Because your accent is much more better than mine.
Absolutely spot on.
So Helen, how are you? So where are you located and how is the weather?
Well, I'm in the UK. I live in Oxford in the UK. So one of those towns where everyone goes, oh yeah, I actually know that. I've heard about that. And today the weather's beautiful. We've had a very non-British spring so far. So we've had some great hot weather and lots of sunshine. So hoping it will stay for the summer.
I was just kidding a bit about it because when I heard you're from the UK, I was just thinking about, oh my God, hopefully she has a nice sunny day today. But it seems like you have. So I'm very grateful for this. Okay, so let's just jump directly into my first question. I have here a bunch of questions with me today. So the first one is, can you just share a bit of your professional background?
Absolutely. So I've got nearly 25 years in sales leadership and business management and leadership. I started back in the 90s, bizarrely selling sausages. I've also done some other interesting jobs like pouring concrete, but my first sales role was back selling sausages as a part-time job. I then moved into education and actually started what I call my toughest sales job, which was teaching English as a foreign language to students in the UK who were struggling to get their GCSEs.
Wow. So just let me interrupt you kindly. So you are saying a teacher is something like a seller, somebody who is doing sales, because this comparison I never heard before.
Absolutely. So how do you get someone to learn something they don't want to learn? You've got to convince them and sell to them the advantages of knowing that information.
Yeah.
And when you've got kids who have come in who have failed every single exam they've done so far, not because they're dumb, but because they don't speak the language. But as children, we internalize everything and they will feel as though it's because they're dumb. You've got one hell of a sales job to do to get them to realize that actually this could be something great. From then, I then moved into I then moved into channel sales, into marketing, and a bit into product management to truly understand that customer life cycle. And it's then that I started to deliberately build my sales and leadership career. I realized that customer-facing roles, those sales roles, was exactly where I wanted to be. But in order to do that, actually having an understanding of the marketing machine and the product machine is also important from a customer perspective, so that you can actually give real honest information to your customer and also support your organization in understanding their customers more effectively. And since then, I've then moved up the sales career ladder and held VP and SVP sort of roles, leading large global sales and marketing teams. And I now am CEO of a leadership development company that specifically looks at developing global leaders and creating great leaders. And some of those are in functional roles of sales, and some of them are CEOs and C-suite leaders leading their own organizations as well.
Oh, I'm really impressed because your career sounds like, I don't know if this is the right pronunciation or word in general in English, mosaic. You know what I'm talking about?
Mosaic,
so you're
yes.
mosaic, right? So this means your background and your career is very, let's say, very diverse, right? What do you think about this?
I think it is important if it's done in a combination of following your passion and your ambition. So what I mean by that is when I got passionate about the customer, I realized I had two actual really big blind spots. A, marketing, which as a salesperson, I'd been brought up to disrespect. And that's incorrect, because their view of the market and their insight is incredibly powerful. And also that perspective of product is important, especially in strategic B2B sales, where actually you might end up having divergent requirements. And understanding that fast and sort of effectively in terms of then communicating that to your customer becomes critical to your success within that organization. So understanding the whole life cycle of your customer, right from very awareness in marketing all the way through to long-term retention and potentially ending lifing products with a customer, becomes really critically important to you then becoming a successful salesperson and sales leader. And that's sort of where I went. I got passionate about the customer, and then I got passionate about solving the customer's problems. And then I got passionate about helping other people solve customers' problems. And that led me into leadership. And each one of those pieces, yes, in that mosaic, that jigsaw puzzle, came together to be where I am now, where that passion for leadership and what great leadership looks like and how you can become a great leader has become really based on both my passion around people and the customer, and then my ambitions to carry on growing and learning as an individual.
Wow, thank you so much, Helen. I mean, you just mentioned leader and being a leader and leadership now, recently. Just, I'm very curious asking you, what should be a good leader be? I mean, what kind of maybe personality and, like soft and hard skills?
So I'm going to break that down if I can.
Of course.
A great leader does some very specific things. So a great leader gets the right people in the right places, doing the right things at the right time consistently. Sounds really easy. It's not. It's simple, but it's very hard to do. So that's what a great leader ends up doing. Now, great leaders play 4 roles, and there are different soft and hard skills in each one of those roles. The first skill is the one we're really used to, which is the manager. Managers make sure things get done at the right quality and to the right time. So they track, monitor progress against specific goals. When you first become a leader, you usually become a manager. And that's quite an easy piece to do because the role modeling of those skills is everywhere across an organization. There are less soft skills in a manager role than there are, for example, in the role of a leader, which is the second of the 4 roles I think a leader should be playing. A leader sets the vision, the strategic goals, sends that inspirational message out to the organization and really gets everyone moving in the same direction. The soft skills around communicating, understanding your audience, empathizing, listening are critical in that aspect. The third role of a great leader is to coach and develop their people. And that is, again, a very specific set of soft skills. And then the last one is around what I call a sounding board, that role where you're creating trust and safety within your culture, where you're allowing people to feel heard and listened to, and where you're also allowing yourself to show up as the more authentic you. There's going to be times when in a forecasting call, I'm going to be really tough and difficult and demanding. And that's not who I am naturally, but that's the role I have to play to make sure that our pipeline is healthy enough for us to hit our goals. But that sounding board role lets me be me. So when we talk about leadership, there's a sort of the job you need to do, which is getting the right people in the right places at the right time, doing the right things consistently. And then there's the roles you need to play. And there's many soft and hard skills that need to get broken down under those 4 roles of manager, leader, coach, and sounding board as well. But I hope that gives you a little bit of insight into what I mean by leader.
Yes, thank you, Helen. So this sounds like a cocktail for me.
It is a bit, but also knowing it all allows you to mix your own drink, to use that analogy, because there's going to be things which you're much naturally better at than I am. And so as a team and as a leadership team, you can then start blending those drinks effectively so that you become a great leadership team for the whole organization and play each one of those 4 roles brilliantly without you having to be brilliant in all of them.
I understand. So really, really nice insights from your side about leadership. Thank you so much. I have another question. I would like to speak with you a bit about challenging business stories. Maybe it's connected with leadership or not. So, but what is your most challenging business success story, Helen?
That's always interesting because I'm a great believer that people tend to remember their mistakes more than they do sometimes their successes, because those are the things that sort of haunt us and make us continue to develop. There's a few. I won't name names, but there's a couple that spring to mind. One is working in a very difficult international market where we had devaluation of currency happening nearly on a weekly basis. And we knew we needed to do something incredibly radical to save our business, but also in a way that treated everybody effectively, or treated everybody with respect, kindness, and didn't leave them out on the street, because the economic market in the country at the time was incredibly tough. Now, there were a number of different options, two of which we completely wrote off because it meant folding the businesses and removing all of the people from their roles and ending up putting over 100 people out of jobs overnight. So we decided what we'd do is we'd spend the next 6 weeks really looking at hunting down different options to see if we could create a path that allowed us to offload our risk, maintain some of our profit, because we had a lot of profit in the business at the time as well, and also look at securing the futures of those individuals going forward. And what we did was we built a plan where we ended up partnering and selling the business bit by bit, so that we managed to maintain the large amount of capital that was worth a lot more 8 weeks beforehand in the company, in the country, and in the business. So managing that piece of money and financial well-being within the organization, whilst at the same time transferring customers and staff over to a partner organization who was investing in that process as well. We effectively did that over a period of 3 months. We ended up managing to secure all of the money in the business by finding an international partner who paid us out of a different country, so that the currencies managed their way across the world in a legal and highly regulated manner, but also in a way where actually we didn't lose any of the profit we had built. We also managed to secure the future of all of the employees going forward. And actually over 80% of those people are still in their new roles. And that was nearly 8 years ago. So that critical value of us doing it with respect and doing it the right way led us to a really innovative solution around partnering and sort of transitioning of a business through an acquisition, and to a degree a bit of a merger, but over a long-term period where we could effectively manage the financial well-being of our organization, the people well-being of our organization, and set it up for future success as well. So that was one of the most challenging things that we did. Did we do it perfectly? No. Did we learn a lot? Yes. Did we come up with a really good way of actually keeping our values true and creating great business sense as well? Yes.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing this insight with me. So, I mean, you just mentioned that you learned, a lot, during this challenging time. So, and I guess you're very keen also to share those insights and this expertise you learned with others, right? So, I mean, I guess you know that with Sales Pro for You, we are connecting startups and scale-ups or any kind of SMEs with mentors. So, do you have also some kind of advice for a startup?
So the first piece of advice I always give everybody is, remember, you're a human, you're gonna muck up, and that's okay. It's what you do once you've made those mistakes that's critically important. If you then fall back into a cycle of poor me, pity, and being a victim, that's when you're going to really struggle. If you go, okay, it's good to make mistakes, let's just carry on and go for it. What have I learned? What do I need to do next time to make sure I don't make the same mistake again? That's when people really flourish. But in startup scale-ups, when you've got such small margins, and such risk of errors having a massive impact on the future success of your business, the fear of making a mistake can paralyze people quite a lot. So actually, the first thing I do is get people to really love and embrace their fear, which might seem a little bit bizarre, but also it forces you to become far more accepting of who you are and the strengths that you have. A lot of people I know are really passionate about their product, but don't actually trust themselves as much as they trust their product. But in order to sell, you need to be the one who is passionate about the capabilities you've got and what you've built around you. So embracing that fear, knowing you're human, making sure that you've got a really good process and support network around you to pick you up and sort of kick you in the right direction once you've made those mistakes. The first piece of advice I give any leader of a small business.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. I will keep this advice with me, of course, I will do. And I really, really enjoy and love, you just explaining about how important the passion is you should feel, you should identify yourself with the things you're doing and you should feel the passion. And this is maybe also your motivation, right? Daily motivation.
Yeah, absolutely. And alongside that piece of your being human, there are days there are days you're not going to want to get out of bed.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
again,
And you should just, let's say, admit them and say, okay, why not? Okay, I am today not feeling so good. So I will just do something what is, let's say, now the best for me. So because I can select, why not, right?
you've got behind you, we want you to do your best. We've defined this concept of like high performance and peak performance, that people are just on the go and amazing all of the time. We know that's rubbish.
Exactly. It's
There
like
are
a
days
show,
when you
yeah.
want to go and sit on your sofa in your pajamas. That's
Exactly.
okay.
Yeah.
And it's really difficult, as a small business owner, and I myself, we started back in 2017, so it's not that long ago that we were a first startup, and we're definitely now in scale-up territory. But I can remember those days where you go, no, I've got to be brilliant. You can't force yourself and get it last in the long run.
Yeah, yeah, you're so right. Okay, Helen, I have a last question for you today. I got this question from Rudy. So who Rudy is, we will learn later during the during the next podcast episode. And Rudy is asking, how do you balance free time and business? I guess this is also important when we, address also this question to the Generation Z, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think this is a fascinating one because I don't believe in a work-life balance. I believe in life, and life is there for living. Now, I am one of those people who has been fortunate that 95% of the time I've loved what I do and I love doing it. So I spent quite a lot of time doing it. I love my business. And for example, I spent about 2 hours yesterday on a Sunday afternoon doing it. And that's okay with me because I don't resent it. So for me, it's about balancing the emotions rather than balancing the time. If I want to be working on the business, I work on the business. Now, I've also got 2 young kids, so I'm very careful in managing the timings. So they're 8 and 6, and they need quite a lot of me at the weekends. But when they're off playing football or having a play date and I want to do some work, I do some work. If I just want to sit on the sofa and read a book, I do that as well. So for me, it's being driven by the passion behind it. And if I get to the point where I go, oh, I've got to, that's when I step back and go, okay, now let's go back and find a bit of non-business life. So that's how I balance it, through how I'm feeling and how much resistance I might be experiencing at any moment to doing that task.
But this is a tough one. This is a really tough one. I have very often during the day, during the business, Jesus, now I have to do it because, this is a task. My customers are important and so on. But if you are not really in the mood and you don't feel the passion, as you just said again, I really like this word, then forget it. The result will be just like not what you expected and also not what your customers deserve.
Yeah, absolutely. So in those stages, I do 2 different things. One's going to sound sensible, one's going to sound a little bit mad, but bear with me. I'm in England, so the weather's not always brilliant, but if it's okay, I'll go for a walk. That's a sensible suggestion. 10-15 minute walk just resets me. If I don't, I do 10 star jumps followed by a minute of running on the spot. And I do that 3 times. And I find just that shift in energy. And I do that before recording videos and all those sort of things. So that's going to give a weird picture in people's head of me running on the spot. But for me, it's about shifting that energy. And if I still feel as though it's, oh God, then yeah, just step away, leave it till tomorrow or the day after. But sometimes just getting that blood pumping gives me enough to move forward and get that discipline to get done what I need to get done when I need to get it done by.
Okay, so I would say that wraps up our enlightening episode of today's mentor talk with Helen. So thank you so much, Helen. It was really a pleasure talking to you. And just some words from my end. Remember, success is a journey, and having the guidance and the wisdom of an experienced professional makes all the difference. So, and if you are curious about the podcast, or if you would like to get also support of today's expert Helen, or if you would like to become a mentor of our community in Sales Pro for You, you can just please email me. I mean, there's my email written down. It's mentor@salesproforyou.com. And that's it. It was a pleasure talking to you, Helen.
Thank you so much. It was wonderful, Suzette.
Okay, bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.